Now, there, of course, have been continuing protests and walkouts at various low-wage workplaces. Now, these protests are mainly about minimum wage. Now, the minimum wage has been stuck at $7.25 federally an hour since the last raise, which was actually in 2009. Many of these protests are from people who are trying to raise families on minimum wage, and as such are really, really struggling to do so. Now, the latest protest happened at an LA Walmart located in downtown LA, in the Chinatown area. Now, police officers in riot gear and helicopters actually faced off against 500 protesters comprised of workers, clergy, and supporters of raising the minimum wage. Now, why does Walmart need riot police? That seems a little sketchy to me. You know, we do have a right to protest, and it just seems like these policemen tend to protect corporate interests more than they do the people. So, now, of course, 50 people were actually arrested by the police, without incident, mind you, after they refused to leave the area once their permit had expired. You need a permit to protest nowadays, to protest a corporation. I don't think that's right at all. I think you should have the ability to protest whenever, as long as you're not hurting anybody. Now, of course, the demands of some of these protesters was that Walmart actually pay every full-time worker at least $25,000 a year. Now, that breaks down to about $12 to $13 an hour. It's actually less than what the fast food workers were asking for. Now, it's important to mention that if wages had kept up with inflation, the minimum wage would be about $10.74 an hour. And according to the Center for Economic and Policy Research, if wages had kept up with in productivity, the minimum wage would be $21.72 an hour. So that just shows how much more that shows how much more productive Americans have been, despite the fact that their wages have been stagnant. Now, that's, of course, both of those numbers are above President Obama's modest call to raise the federal minimum wage to $9 an hour. It's also important to note that actually many states already have a higher minimum wage than the current federal level. Now, 19 states plus D.C. have minimum wage rates set higher than the federal minimum wage, including my state of Michigan, which it's not all that much better, to be honest with you. Our minimum wage laws are $7.40 an hour here. Now, 22 states have wages at the federal level, and 4 states actually have a state minimum wage that is lower than the federal level. Now, of course, federal law, in this case, supersedes state law, so they still have to pay $7.25 an hour, but that's essentially a big middle finger to all the low-wage workers in those states to say, if we could, yeah, we'd pay you lower. Amazing, right? But not only that, but 5 states actually have no minimum wage law whatsoever. So maybe that's like a double middle finger to those people who work those low-wage jobs. Now, what about the people who work these low-wage jobs? Well, one of the protesters was a 30-year-old father of 2 named Anthony Goitia. I don't think I have this. Goitia. And now he will only make about $12,000 a year. You can't raise a family on $12,000 a year. And to make ends meet, Goitia says he sometimes participates in clinical trials and sells his blood plasma. Now, when I was going to school, I actually had some friends that worked these minimum wage jobs, and one of the things that they did to get by, to make the rent, is go and sell blood. Now, imagine having to do that on a pretty regular basis. It's good for blood banks, and I guess it's good for the people that can give it because they get extra money for it, but having to do that to pay your rent while you work, that's pretty bad. Now, another protester, a 55-year-old woman named Martha Sellers, and she makes about $25,000 a year. Now, she's worked for Walmart for about 10 years, but her hours have been cut recently in the last couple of years, sometimes being reduced to 12 hours a week. Now, if she were working full-time, she would be making $25,000 a year. But since her hours continue to get cut, obviously it's going to be a lot lower. Now, when interviewed by the Huffington Post, she told them that, quote, with that income, I have to pay my rent in pieces. If I pay all my rent at one time, then I have $12 to live on and put gas in my car until I get paid again. That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. Now, an employee spokesman for Walmart told the Huffington Post that asking for a minimum of $25,000 a year is, quote, a national issue, not a Walmart issue. So basically it means that unless Congress gets involved, which they won't, many workers will continue to see these incredibly low poverty wages, despite Walmart being the number 2 spot on the Fortune 500, which means they're the second largest corporation in America. And they can't afford to pay a living wage. And of course they say, well, it's a national issue, because they bought members of Congress that are against raising the minimum wage. Not only that, but of course Walmart is one of the biggest welfare queens in U.S. history. They charge so low of prices, but they pay so low and encourage their employees to get on food stamps and Medicaid. And of course, since they have the low prices, that makes the people that work for them have to shop there. It's an ingenious business model, and it's very exploitive. Something's got to give, you know. And look, I don't think we're going to get anything done with the Congress that we have, unfortunately. And that's really sad, because there are real people trying to make a living on this stuff, and it's not as if they can easily get another job. And that's something that a lot of people don't understand. They can't just go up and get a job. 55-year-old Martha Sellers, she's lucky she can get a job. A lot of careers have this age boundary, like they won't hire somebody who's 55. And so, I mean, there's a lot of barriers for people like her for employment. So she's stuck where she's at. And if you think she'll be able to retire on that, good luck. Good luck. So as far as the protests go, I'm in favor of this. I'm in favor of these protests. Even though I'm not entirely convinced that they're going to do anything, at least they're getting people to talk about them. And maybe we can change some minds and you know, raise enough of a ruckus for people on Capitol Hill to listen. At least that's my hope. And maybe I'm naive, but maybe something will happen. And of course, we have to get the money out of politics if we're going to get any sort of traction on any of these issues. Hey, thanks for watching this video. Please leave a comment below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button and share with your friends. If you want to see more, go to our channel at youtube.com/TYTNation. And if you really want to support the show, support this channel, go to our fundraising campaign at www.patreon.com/TYTNation. The website is in the description below. Thank you guys, and keep watching.